Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our top NBA fades for Friday, January 29th. Now remember, the idea of the top fades are, these are guys that we think are going to be pretty highly owned tonight, that you can make a case for them, but these are guys who I am not going to be putting in my lineup because I'm going to try to make the case against why you shouldn't be using these guys tonight. And, hopefully we're able to avoid some of the spots that other people wind up hitting a landmine on, which wind up pushing us up higher in tournaments. Now, remember, when we talk about fades, we're not talking about cash games. There are still guys that are going to be decent cash game plays that might be tournament fades. So when we talk about our top fades for today, we're talking about guys who are not going to be playing in tournaments and the reasons why. So let's call up the slideshow and talk about who those guys are today. Three guys who I'm not going to be playing in tournaments who I think are my top fades are Andre Drummond at 8,600, KarlAnthony Towns at 7,100, and Chris Middleton at 7,200. Drummond is an underdog against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs are a very efficient defense that has been really tough on centers so far this year. The two good games that Andre Drummond has had recently, where he's gone for over 50 fantasy points, were both against two of the worst teams in terms of center DVP in the entire league. He put up 50-plus points last out against the Sixers. Then he had two bad games sandwiched in between of like 17 or 18 fantasy points. Yes, you heard that right. 2x value, 17, 18 fantasy points. And then the game before that was against another bad team against centers in the New Orleans Pelicans. So he has two 50-point games recently that people are going to hang their hats on. But both of those games have come against two of the worst teams in the league in terms of center defense. And he plays one of the better teams in the league in this matchup. Andre Drummond has actually been underperforming for a while now. He has gone under 5x value in 11 of his last 14 games. We usually like guys who have gone 5x or better in 11 of their 14 games as guys that have a safe floor. But a guy who has been under it in 11 of his 15 games is somebody who we just think is overpriced. And Andre Drummond in this matchup with the Cavaliers today, I think is overpriced. He will be highly owned coming off a 50-point game against the Philadelphia 76ers, but I don't think this is anywhere near as nice a matchup for him. Next guy we're going to talk about is KarlAnthony Towns. He is also an 8-point underdog in a low total game against the Utah Jazz. The Jazz are healthy and much improved defensively. They were one of the best defensive teams in the league in the second half of the year, and they pretty much have the same crew that they had there rolled out now, with Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors, who's still coming off the bench, being two of the better defensive options that they can put out there together. And, we saw a team struggle to score even 80 and 90 points against this Jazz team last year. This is actually an interesting game because Minnesota's been averaging about 112 points over the last week, and Utah's only been giving up about 85 points to their opponents over the last week. So you really have a team that's playing as well offensively as anybody in the league going up against a team that's playing as well defensively as anybody in the league. So it's, the old immovable object and the unstoppable force. It'll be interesting to see which way this one turns out. Now, KarlAnthony Towns has been a big reason why that Minnesota team has been putting up a ton of points recently. He's gotten off for 40 or 50 fantasy points in, 4 of their last 6 games, I think. The problem with that is Gobert and Utah were the best versus centers late last season. And now that Gobert is back, we've already seen him, starting to shut down opposing teams. Not only opposing centers, but just opposing teams in general with all the length that they have, the rebounding, the shot blocking and shot altering skills that they have with the big guys there. I do think KarlAnthony Towns has been playing well enough that he could reach value. He really only needs about 35 points to do that. But I'm not sure that we're going to get a 40, 50-point performance out of him in this matchup for upside. Remember, it's not only the Gobert matchup, but it's the Gobert matchup, the fact that they should be playing this game slower. They have a low implied team total number of points. I just think there's a lot of things that point to him playing closer to his floor than this being a game where he breaks out and gives you that real ceiling. The last guy I want to talk about here is Chris Middleton at 7,300. He's another one in a low total game as an underdog against the Miami Heat. Vegas only expects about 191 points in that game, so I think it might even be the lowest one on the day, even lower than that Minnesota-Utah matchup. The Heat are pretty solid defensively, and they play at a slow pace. So the slow pace definitely hurts everybody who plays against them. The fact that they're solid defensively also makes them tougher to score on. And again, it's a low total game here, so I don't really feel like Middleton's in a great spot. He has gone 5x or better in 9 of his last 10 games, so he does have a somewhat safe floor. And this is what I talked about guys with a safe floor. Only once, though, in those 10 games has he reached 6x or better. So I don't see any way that Middleton gets upside in a matchup that's, basically a low total, a tough matchup for him, a slow pace, all the things we don't like to see out of guys that we pick for our fantasy teams. like I said, there's still a chance that he gets you 35 fantasy points, 37, maybe gets you that 5X. But I think that his upside today is basically that 5X floor, and his downside could be a 3 or 4X game. I don't see him having a 6 or 7X game in him against this Miami team. So the third guy that we're looking to fade here, guy that I won't have on any of my tournament rosters today, is going to be Chris Middleton of the Milwaukee Bucks. So like I said, those are three guys that, people are going to be talking about. I think all three of them are going to be highly owned, and there is a case or some merit into why people like all three of these guys. But I do think that the case against them is stronger than the case for using them. And that's why these are my three top fades on the day. So thank you guys for joining us here at rotocurve.com. And as always, stay classy, DFS.